Welcome back to the deep dive. We are diving into some really fascinating source material you shared with us. Today we're looking at a story that it starts really small, just a seemingly routine thing at an airport counter, but it quickly spirals into this um, really powerful strategic challenge against systemic injustice.
That's exactly right. And our mission here, sort of, is to really dig into how these quiet dismissals, the kind we might overlook, and the complicity that lets them happen, how they can actually have these huge, far-reaching consequences. And on the flip side, how one person's very measured, very deliberate response can spark a massive reckoning. The sources really layer this out.
Yeah, they do. And it all kicks off somewhere familiar. LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, Gate 24 specifically. The source paints this picture of the early morning glow, that busy airport vibe. And into this scene walks our central figure, Naomi Sinclair, described as a poised and powerful black businesswoman, impeccably dressed, arriving right at the gate.
Right, it's such a specific public place. But individual moments can get lost in the crowd, can't they? The source really emphasizes her presence. She's got this rich mahogany suitcase, looks every bit the accomplished executive she was, carries herself with deliberate grace.
Okay, so she walks up to the counter. Her voice, the source says, is smooth, softly accented.
Sure.
You're thinking standard check-in, right?
Exactly, you'd think so. But nope, that's not what unfolds. We meet the gate agent, Chloe Patterson, and right away the source notes Chloe's reaction. A breathless chuckle. They call it a scalpel disguised as a smile. And it specifically says Chloe's eyes scanned Naomi's face, her skin, her deliberate grace, basically sizing her up on the spot.
Wow. And that sizing up leads straight to the line that just changes everything. It's like quite the accent you have there. And the source is clear. This isn't friendly curiosity. It's unspoken condescension.
And boom. The immediate consequence, a sudden, really drastic seat change. Naomi booked 2A sounds like first class, and she's bumped all the way back. 44E, economy.
44E. That's not a small change.
Not at all. And Chloe's explanation is just this practice customer service script. Something like, oh, the system corrects itself.
Right, the standard line.
Yeah, but the source cuts right through that. It says the malice was clear. This wasn't some glitch. It was a choice.
So how does Naomi react to this? Because that's crucial. The source says her pulse actually slows down. But not from panic, but from a creeping, bone-deep realization. Her tone stays composed. What's that tell us?
Well, it tells us she's not just thinking, oh, there's been a mistake. She gets it instantly. She recognizes there's something else going on here. That composure, that clarity, it's her processing the insult, the assessment, the consequence all at once. And importantly, she doesn't, explode or get loud. That could easily be twisted, used to dismiss her complaint.
Right. And that clarity she has is almost immediately backed up by what's happening around her.
Yeah.
The whole atmosphere of witnessing and complicity.
Absolutely. You look at the other passengers in line, the source captures it perfectly. Impatience. They're glancing over, maybe with fleeting disdain for those who dared to disrupt their schedule. They just want to get on the plane.
Yeah, focused on their own thing.
Meanwhile, Naomi feels her hands get cold. But again, the source emphasizes, not with fear, with clarity. She's seeing the situation for exactly what it is.
So this isn't just one rude person. Naomi gets it. This was a decision made in the space of a glance, a calculation of worth. And the calculation wasn't based on her ticket, her status.
No.
I mean, it was, as the source puts it, from the color of her skin, the shape of her words. That's a sharp point the source makes.
It really is. And then what happens next is so telling. Chloe turns to the very next passenger, a man. And suddenly she's all cheerful and questioning efficiency, helps him out, no problem.
Wow, the contrast.
Stark contrast. And Naomi sees it. She realizes this kind of injustice. It isn't always shouting. It's often systematic, seamless. It's woven right into the normal procedures. Quiet, efficient, almost invisible if you're not the target.
Okay, so faced with this quiet, efficient dismissal, what does Naomi do? She doesn't just walk away.
No, she doesn't. She stands taller, the source says, feeling the weight of her history, perhaps. And she asks, very deliberately, is there a supervisor I can speak to?
How's that request received?
Predictably, maybe, with resistance. The source describes delay with orchestrated indifference. Suddenly, the system isn't so efficient anymore.
Funny how that works.
Isn't it? But then there's a little crack. The source introduces Lucas, a junior staffer. He comes over hesitantly, showing a flicker of something resembling guilt.
Oh, interesting.
And he whispers this bombshell to Naomi. They don't want you in first class, that it doesn't fit the brand image. Better to have you somewhere less visible.
Wow. Just, wow. brand image.
Right, that's the system kind of revealing its ugly logic through this one hesitant employee. And Naomi's reaction to hearing that confirmation, her breath caught, the source says. She takes it in. But her face betrayed nothing, not yet. She just gives Lucas a nod. Her silence, the source says, is slicing sharper than any protest. It's not surrender, it's calculation, a gathering storm. The wheels are definitely turning now.
And literally, right then, her phone buzzes.
Perfect timing. A prearranged signal from her executive assistant. Just one word. Ready?
Ready. So this wasn't just her alone reacting in the moment.
Exactly. That signal confirms her team, her resources, they're mobilized, this is coordinated, and it cements her understanding. This isn't just about her being humiliated, it's bigger. Like the source says, it's a mirror reflecting the quiet rot at the core of polished corporate facades. This incident at Gate 24, it's not the end of the story. It's the trigger.
So, okay, she's been dismissed from the counter, told she can't have her seat. But she doesn't just leave the gate area.
No, she stays, remains seated nearby. And the source makes a point of mentioning her suitcase again, that rich mahogany one. It's sitting there, a quiet testament to her status, the very status that was just completely ignored.
So she's watching now.
She shifts gears from being the subject of the interaction to being an observer. And what she sees is this whole web of whispered warnings and the practiced silence. She watches Chloe, sees the subtle exchanges, furtive glances between staff. She sees the discomfort of other people nearby who chose instead to glance away.
That silence is easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
The source calls it a comfortable cocoon.
It is. Because speaking up takes effort, it involves risk. And that's where the complicity really shows itself. We see it clearly with Grease, a young flight attendant mentioned in the source. Her posture is described as slightly tense, hands trembling a bit. She hurries past, trying to put distance between herself and the situation.
So she senses something's wrong.
Yeah, the source suggests she recognizes the injustice but feels that pull of silent compliance. Her silence in that moment is deafening.
And what about Lucas, the junior guy who whispered the truth?
He comes back to the counter later, talks to Chloe in a low voice. His body language screamed reluctance, according to the source. But he's delivering the official excuses that had been drilled into him, towing the line now.
And Chloe's response to his visible discomfort.
Tells you everything. Just let it go, Lucas. It's not worth it.
Wow. Just dismiss it?
Exactly. That's how the system polices itself. Not just rules, but by minimizing, making people feel like they're the problem for feeling uneasy. The source nails it. The system works with ruthless efficiency through these tacit nods, the silent complicity.
And the other passengers, are they still just ignoring it?
Pretty much. The source mentions people actively avoiding Naomi's gaze. Like one middle-aged woman who looks over, catches Naomi's eye, then quickly looks back at her phone. It's described not as malice, but as self-preservation. Maybe even a kind of fear. Fear of getting drawn in, maybe.
Yeah, fear of disruption.
Even the security officers nearby, they're watching, but with impassive faces. No one calls them because technically nothing overt has happened. The whole thing is wrapped in this silent compliance. Their presence is just a visual deterrent, showing how powerful institutionalized silence can be.
Okay, but while Naomi is observing all this quiet complicity, she's not just sitting there passively, is she?
Not at all. She's acting, just quietly. Her phone buzzes again. A discreet message. It indicates preparations were advancing. She's not stewing, she's actively gathering witnesses, patterns, evidence.
This isn't about emotion for her, then.
No, the source is clear. The storm she would unleash would not be born from rage, but from precision. It's calculated.
We see Grace, the flight attendant, pass by again.
Yeah, and she hesitates. Looked like she might stop, might say something. But then her courage withered under the weight of professional decorum and unspoken rules.
Another moment of choosing silence.
A powerful illustration from the source of that internal conflict. And Naomi sees it all.
She keeps gathering evidence, right? Sees another interaction.
Yes, she observes Chloe dealing with another passenger, a man with an economy ticket this time. His tone is dripping with entitlement. And Chloe, a few quick keystrokes, and boom, she reassigned his seat to a prime location.
So blatant favoritism right after denying Naomi her booked seat.
Undeniable.
Yeah.
Naomi notes it, filed it away like a lawyer preparing an airtight case. Each instance builds the pattern.
So Naomi waits until the line dies down.
She does. Stays seated. Lucas comes back one last time, shoulders slumped, guilt practically radiating off him, but he says nothing. Naomi meets his gaze, and the source says his silence this time was a confession. He knows.
And then finally, Naomi gets up to leave.
Yes. Slowly stands, gathers her coat with that same deliberate grace she arrived with. She let them think they'd gotten rid of her, that she was just another problem passenger dismissed. But they had miscalculated.
How so?
They saw her calm, her control, and they mistook silence for submission. Big mistake.
And she has one last word for Chloe.
Oh, yeah. She walks back to the counter. Chloe starts some default customer service line, probably, but Naomi cuts her off. Her voice, the source says, is low, rich with the promise of something far more potent than confrontation.
What does she say?
She looks at Chloe and says, I hope you're ready, because this story doesn't end at gate 24.
Chills.
Right. And then she just turns and walks away,
Mm-hmm.
leaving them there, the ones who relied on the whispered warnings and silent compliance, knowing it was all about to crumble.
And does it start crumbling right away?
Pretty much. As Naomi walks off, the source describes this quiet tremor starting. On the surface, the terminal keeps going, the orchestrated dance, but behind the counters, things feel different, a distinct shift in atmosphere, the birth of reckoning, the source calls it.
It's the staff first.
Yeah, the individuals involved. Lucas feels like he's spiraling inward. Naomi's quiet resilience got to him. He starts seeing the fractures in the systems he trusted.
And Chloe, the agent who started it all.
Her composure starts to crack. She's replaying the whole thing, her actions suddenly feeling fragile, her smiles strained. She's realizing, maybe for the first time, how that kind of strategic silence bit back so swiftly.
What about Grace, the flight attendant who stayed silent?
She's standing off to the side, feeling this deep tremor of regret, realizing she had seen it all and done nothing. Her own inaction feels like part of the silent compliance. That silence now feels suffocating, the source says. Naomi's dignity kind of shattered that illusion for her.
In this unease, it moves up the ladder, right, to the supervisor.
It does.
Yeah.
Dennis Marks, the shift supervisor. He's watching monitors, feeling this growing unease. Whispers are starting. Radios are crackling. The digital logs show the seat changes, the overrides, but crucially, no one had yet flagged it as a breach. Standard procedure, maybe? Or just overlooked?
Until now.
Right. Dennis feels the weight. He knows this wasn't just a disgruntled passenger. Something bigger is unfolding.
And while this is all rippling through the airport staff, where's Naomi? What's she doing?
She's not far, in the executive lounge. But, as the source notes, not as a guest, but as an observer. And she's already working her network. The source describes it vividly. Legal advisors pinging, logistical experts preparing statements, travel consortia initiating preliminary freezes on joint operations.
Wow, immediate action.
Coordinated, calculated action. Each message is a silent stone placed on a chessboard. This isn't about venting, it's strategic dismantling.
And this starts having a tangible effect back at the airport.
Absolutely. The airport's superficial order began to falter. Little things first, screens glitching, queues getting longer because Chloe is fumbling, stressed. Lucas overhears supervisors talking, worried. Chloe's hands are literally trembling. She feels Naomi's shadow in every crack of the system. The system is feeling the pressure.
And Grace, she's understanding things differently now.
Yeah, she has this realization. The real power of injustice wasn't in the loud public acts. It was in the quiet, almost invisible agreements, those moments where people looked away. That silent consent is the foundation.
Meanwhile, Dennis, the supervisor, is trying to escalate.
He is, trying to reach his manager, but messages are going unanswered. Reports of system delays are starting to surface across the network. Naomi's influence, though unseen, was now palpable, as the source puts it. It's not just legal threats, it's this slow, insidious erosion of confidence in the whole operation.
So the very silence they relied on.
Exactly. The source concludes this part powerfully. The silence that once protected them was now their undoing. Naomi walking away from that gate. It wasn't a retreat, it was setting off an earthquake, and the aftershocks are just starting.
And these aftershocks, they follow her. The story shifts location later that day, right? To Denver.
Yeah, Denver International Airport. And that fracture that started at LAX, it's deepened. The systems, maybe across the whole airliner network, are starting to tremble under hidden disruptions.
And Naomi's directing this from Denver.
From her private office there, yes. Her legal team is coordinating everything with this almost eerie calm. It's described as a steady, deliberate exercise of power. And the actions are specific, targeted. Calls were made to revoke vendor contracts. Entire blocks of premium reservations were frozen.
This isn't just about getting an apology then.
Not at all. The goal is systemic accountability. hit the business relationships, the operational dependencies. It's not about public shaming. It's about forcing change from within the structure.
And back at the airport, the human consequences continue. Chloe.
Chloe gets called into a meeting. Dennis is there, corporate compliance too. Her story now has this edge of quiet regret. She actually admits we were just following what we thought was standard, but we didn't think about what it meant, which is huge, acknowledging the normalization of bias.
And Grace is still processing her role.
Yeah, she's lingering in the terminal, watching people, families, feeling the weight of her silence as its own kind of complicity. She knows fixing it needs more than quiet regret. Action is needed.
Lucas is seeing the technical side of this unfold.
Right. He's at a console, tracing these escalating failures, vendor codes malfunctioning, boarding systems randomly reassigning seats. He recognizes Naomi's hand in it, sees it as an assertion of control. It's a light bulb moment for him, seeing how one underestimated individual could shift the balance by hitting the system strategically.
And up in the executive suites, panic.
Definitely anxiety.
Yeah.
Whispers turn into real concern. Rumors about Naomi's influence, her connections, apparently she's a cornerstone client. They're realizing her quiet decisions could collapse entire pillars of their business model. Underestimating her was a massive miscalculation.
But amidst this pressure, are there signs of people trying to do the right thing now?
Yes, thankfully. The source mentions Grace actually requests a meeting with her supervisor. She's ready to lay out the timeline, the complicity she witnessed, with newfound resolve.
That takes courage.
It does. Her report is described as a crack in the wall of silence.
And Chloe,
Well,
does she do anything beyond regret?
she does. Alone in a break room, she starts drafting an email to Naomi. The source calls it raw, unvarnished truth. She writes something like, "I saw what we did, and I didn't stop it. I'm sorry." It's a personal attempt at accountability, triggered by the systemic one.
Lucas too.
Lucas takes a formal step. He submits an official report to corporate, details the system override, the procedural lapses, and the silent approvals that allowed it all to happen. It's a dry document, the source says, but it's his way of trying to replace silence with accountability, using the system's own tools.
So while these individuals are having their own reckonings, what's Naomi's focus? Is she waiting for these apologies?
No, the source makes it clear she's moved beyond that. She's focused on the broader picture, a restructuring of relationships, a recalibration of power. This was never just about one gate agent or one flight. It was about unmasking a culture that thrived on silence. The reckoning she's driving is a quiet dismantling of that culture.
The source follows her after she leaves the airport environment.
Yeah, briefly mentions her car ride. She's reflecting on her measured resolve, how she kind of let the system expose itself through its own actions and reactions, and she's already thinking about what came next.
Which isn't about going back to how things were.
Definitely not. Her vision isn't about getting back into that first-class seat or even just getting a public apology. It's something more profound, a transformation. She's not interested in performative gestures. She wants structural, irreversible change built on integrity.
And she communicates this directly.
Yes. Through a private message to her board, her team, her business partners, and the source gives us a key quote from it. She says something like, "Our responsibility is to build systems where dignity is the foundation, not a privilege, where silence is not a strategy, but action is."
Powerful framing.
And then the hammer drops. Effective immediately, all future partnerships will be reevaluated against this standard. Any that fall short will be terminated, no exceptions.
Wow. That's putting your money where your mouth is?
Yeah.
Using her economic power.
Exactly. It's policy now. It's a declaration that if the old system won't change, she'll build a new one by choosing who she aligns with.
This leads to some kind of gathering.
Yeah, a private summit near Boulder, Colorado. The source stresses this is not a press conference. It's a closed-door meeting with her advisors, community leaders, key partners, a space for honest conversation, for confronting uncomfortable truths.
Getting real about the problems.
Totally. The talks are described as raw, unfiltered, and they're not just talking about fixing things, they're drafting plans to replace it entirely. And Naomi speaks directly to this group, laying out the vision. The systems we build must be strong enough to withstand bias, but flexible enough to correct it. She continues, they must be transparent, accountable, and built with empathy at its core. We're not here to patch the old, we're here to create the new.
That must have landed powerfully in that room.
The source says there was this shift, an awakening. A collective understanding that real change isn't just about new rules or penalties. It starts with the courage to reimagine the world as it should be and the resolve to make it real. It's about rebuilding from the foundation up.
And how does Naomi feel at this point? Vindicated.
More than just satisfaction, the source suggests, a sense of renewed purpose. She knows it won't be easy, that it demands real commitment from everyone.
So the story doesn't end with a big public win or punishment.
No, it concludes more quietly, with the sense that this is the start of a new chapter, marked by this quiet gathering of resolve. Naomi's personal story has become a shared catalyst.
Okay, so reflecting on this whole narrative from the source material, what are the big takeaways?
Well, Naomi Sinclair's story here is it's a masterclass in resilience, isn't it? And in strategic power. She didn't engage in loud confrontation, didn't demand things on their terms. She used her integrity, her resources with incredible precision. She essentially turned the system's own weakness, its reliance on quiet complicity, back on itself.
Yeah, her approach wasn't about immediate anger or revenge, even though she had every right to be angry.
Yeah.
It was that calculated withdrawal, that strategic reevaluation, deciding who she would work with, who she would empower going forward. It really shows that power often lies in that quiet, uncompromising resolve and the decisive action behind the scenes. That silence, when it's chosen strategically, can echo way louder than shouting.
Absolutely. And I think this story really holds up a mirror for all of us, for our own lives. The lesson seems pretty clear, if maybe difficult. Refuse to accept the unacceptable, even when it's subtle. Stand steady against those systemic wrongs, even the quiet ones. And crucially, understand that your worth, your value, isn't determined by someone else dismissing you. Your voice matters, even if they try to silence it.
And we can actually use her blueprint,
Yeah.
right? That combination, integrity plus strategic action. That can shift the dynamic, whether you're talking about bias in a huge corporation or a public institution, or maybe even just in personal relationships.
It definitely poses a challenge to us, doesn't it? It makes you think.
Yeah.
Where might I be silently complicit? By looking away, by choosing comfort. And on the other hand, where could my quiet, decisive actions rooted in integrity, help rewrite a narrative that depends on people staying silent?
Yeah, thinking about that ripple effect. If you choose clarity, if you choose commitment, instead of just going along with the comfortable silence, what could change? Maybe think about one small, deliberate action you could take in your own sphere of influence, maybe this week. Something that starts to chip away at a system, big or small, that relies on people just looking away. Definitely something to chew on.
It really is a powerful challenge.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's been quite a story of quiet strength and truly profound impact.